PR Connections Radio presents.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Evelyn's Roundtable. This podcast highlights a host of relevant topics. Our conversations share voices of women of color, Black women veterans and veterans, allies, candidates, and elected officials, entrepreneurs, teachers, students, and others. We also explore important issues and challenges such as grassroots leadership, job training, homelessness, and mental health advocacy, accountability, male inclusion, and civics. Our mission statement is to empower all women. Do you hear me? All women to hold hands as we rise. Well, good evening, ladies. And oh my gosh, this is so special to me right here, to have all three. And you know what they say about a triangle of women of color, that's powerful, right?
That's right.
I just want to, exactly, right? I just want to say thank you, ladies, for being on here. And I appreciate, and wow, both of you are, oh my gosh, doing big things out here, and you're being powerful, and you're leaders also too. So I just want to introduce Akia and Mayita, and they're both, again, everyone, somebody special. And Akia, we're going to start off with you. If that's okay with you, Mayita, we're going to start with Akia. And could you just tell us, I just want you to tell us a little background about yourself, please. Could you do that?
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Evelyn. And thank you for having me on the show. This is awesome, especially as a fellow female veteran. So a little bit about myself. I spent 14 and a half years in the United States Navy, a military police officer. My last duty station was Fallon, Nevada. And so I do live in Northern Nevada now. I got out off of active duty 2017, transitioned to the reserves, and I started going to University of Nevada, Reno. I got my bachelor's degree in nutrition. Around that time, the pandemic hit. And, if you're in the military, you know how it is, overachiever, right? So I didn't get to celebrate my big day. So I was like, you know what, I'm going to get a master's. So I rolled right into my MBA program that August after I graduated that May. And did a 2-year program, and I got my MBA. And now my big start out of the military after I got my degree was working for United States Senator Catherine Cortez Masto. I did government affairs for her for about 4 years, and that really just, delved me into the political climate in the state, as well as really getting intimate with the different issues and the things that need to be addressed in the state of Nevada. And now, luckily, I work for the actual state of Nevada in the Governor's Office of Federal Assistance. So we are working to maximize federal funding in the state and bringing in grant funding and decreasing those barriers, and really just meeting our stakeholders where they're at. So, yeah. Yes. And I'm not in the reserves anymore. So, yes.
That is so important, right? To meet them where they're at, because I think people forget about who you serve, right? We're serving. We're not on the other side of it, right? We're serving. So I think everyone forgets that we got to meet people where they're at, and people don't come to us, right? It's not like that. Not when you're serving. So, right. Mayita, you're over there being all quiet, which is interesting already. So can you please give us some background on you?
I'm shy. Yeah, no, a little bit about me. Yeah, my name is Mayita. Thank you so much for having me here with you guys. This is awesome. I love just learning and being around people that are doing just amazing things. It's freaking awesome. So I am originally from California. I've been in Nevada for 12 years now in Northern Nevada. I'm the original California transplant before it was cool is what I tell people. My background, I'm Mexican American. I identify as Chicana. I was first in my family to go to university. I was accepted into school. Everybody had big old dreams for Mayita. Little Mayita is what they called me because my mom's big Mayita. So I'm a junior. A lot of people call me junior. And I was first to go to school. And life got in the way. It was crazy times. So was recovering from that for a very, very long time. And that has impacted me greatly. When I moved out here, without any type of like education other than the couple of years that I did at university floating around. And I was a stay-at-home mom for a little while, if you can believe it. It was crazy times. And I applied for a job through Craigslist to work as a document control clerk. And so I ended up at the Legislative Council Bureau for my first session downstairs, carrying documents around and carrying BDRs. And I saw people that looked like me. And I was like, wow, this is crazy. I had never seen people that looked like me that were dressed up really, really nice. And they were lawyers and lobbyists and, policy advocates and just doing all these really, really great things. And I was absolutely floored. And I was like, how do I get there? How do I do that? This is what I want to do, because that's what I wanted to do when I was younger. I wanted to go to law school. And so, that started my journey. I worked 2 sessions. I got hired at the state as well. I had a really good mentor who told me I can't do anything with you without some type of education. So I went back to school and I got my associate's degree in psychology. And then I got a bachelor's degree in business management. And I also have my master's in public administration. And I've recently started my doctoral journey. So working on a dissertation. So that's where I started. And I'm a firm believer in public administration and policy development. I really, really think that it's important that people who are able to go into the community and talk to people and bring people together and convince people to move forward, doing something that's really, really scary and making things really easy for people to understand is really, really important. And it's really important to me and my community and my kids and my family. Like, coming from where I came from, where it was like, hey, you have the whole world in front of you, to you're a statistic and you're a failure and that's it, you're done, to now where I'm at is really, really important. So I tell people all the time, if you can see it, man, you can be it. So yeah, that's me in a nutshell. A little crazy, but fun.
Yeah, but that's kind of what all 3 of our stories are, right?
Yeah.
It's wow, can we do that? Can we achieve that? And I think, which brings to the topic, of what we're talking about is invisible, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you kind of like started it off a little bit there, because that's what's been going on with all of us, right?
Yeah.
And it's something, you think, wow, can I really do that? Can I do this? Can I do that? And it's all, and I think it's the gray noise, right? I call it the gray noise that we go through. I mean, even on my achievements that I've been doing, I'm like, I don't know if I can do that. And it's really sad because we do that to ourselves, knowing, and I'm going to say, knowing damn well we can do it, right? It's just that, oh, no, you can't, because it's that typical noise we're used to hearing. But anyways, as far as the topic, invisible to me, and the reason why I picked the topic was because that's how I feel sometimes, right? Yeah. I mean, even though we might be well in with our masters, as both of you have talked about, right? But unfortunately, you still feel that way, right? You still get in a room where people are acting like you're the dumb one, and you're thinking, no, you're the dumbass, not me, right? You're thinking,
I ask myself that all the time.
Right?
I'm like,
but you have to be like, like, okay, business setting, right?
Yes.
So okay, can you please come up with a couple examples or one example or something that you pick up off the top?
Absolutely. So I'm gonna go back to my military service, and then I'm gonna bring it back to my professional setting as now. But and I know you know this, Evelyn, but just being a woman in the military, let alone, I mean, I know a lot of people call it MOS in the Navy, we call it rate. My rate was military police. So we badass off the rip, right? So we're supposed to have the best uniform. We're supposed to set the best example. We're out there, depending on your setting. If you're in CONUS, you're writing tickets, you're patrolling, you're keeping people within rules and regulations under the UCMJ, right? So we're already, they don't like us, right? And so I just remember when I joined, and just really building up in rank. And it's just like the biggest thing to me, and I mean, I played basketball, so I was a tomboy and an athlete, when I was younger. But the biggest thing to me is like, how do I add value to the space, right? So that's always been my thought process and how I approached everything. So I have busted my butt. I didn't take shortcuts, and I've watched people take shortcuts, right? And get to, no, I studied. I made sure that I understood my instructions or whatever regulations that were governing my job in and out. Because as a woman of color, and if I, wanted to be in a position of leadership, that's what you have to do. You have to be better than the person next to you, and in military, a lot of times the person next to you is a white male, and I'm just call a spade, right? And so then, so what can I do to set myself apart? Right. And what I found is the culture, and we still have a long way to go in the military, and we're 2024. But in this culture of this white man's military, and I'm trying to fit into this culture, right? And I want to be in leadership, but I have to fit into this culture. I had people that I'm in charge of my whole unit, and these white men telling me that, they felt comfortable enough to come tell me what I ought to be doing. And I'm in charge of them. And I have multiple, scenarios and situations. And it's like, we have to take that humble seat, that humble approach. We have to do it the right way, because we are an example of not only ourselves, but unfortunately, all Black women. And that's how they look at us, right? Whatever I say, I'm speaking for an entire, race and gender. And it shouldn't be that way. So those were a lot of times the issues that I would deal with when I was in the service of, I was building up rank, and I busted my butt and I got there, and I am in that position of leadership. And then I'm still being checked by people beneath me, because they don't feel like I'm competent enough, or they don't feel like, my Black self should be in this position. So that's in the military, right? And so what that does, or what that did to me, is it gave me this hunger. It just gave me this hunger where it's just like, I got to ball, I got to grind, I got to be 2 steps ahead. You heard Mayita talking about a PhD, right? But that's the mindset. You have to be that much better, a step to 2 steps ahead of your counterpart, and so that's just there. And so many people ask me, why you go so hard? I have to, for you to take me serious. You know what I mean? I need to be 2 to 3 steps. I need to have that PhD or that law degree just to be maybe at an entry level, position to where you came in with a bachelor's.
Yeah, even the thought process, So Mayita, where let's hear something about what and where, because I know you have a couple good ones. So let's give us a story here.
Yeah, well, and I get straight up, I piggyback off of what you just said right there. Someone told me, when I was starting out in grants, because I was starting out in federal grants and project management, someone told me, hey, no one's going to take you seriously unless you go into higher education. You have to get your doctorate. No one's going to take you seriously, Mayita. And it was another woman. She straight up told me, and I was just like, okay. And I took it as advice, and I was like, got it. Banked it. I was like, well, run with it. I don't have money or time right now, but but that stuck with me. But no, I've had a lot of really interesting things, and I've dealt with a lot of imposter syndrome, where it's like, hey, do I really know what I'm talking about, or am I just making it up? Is that person really dumb, or am I just not comprehending what they're saying, or are they just kind of like blowing smoke? And so I've had those thoughts. I've been accused of taking up space when I'm thinking that I'm just doing what I have to do. And then having, again, like you guys said, we always have to be a little bit louder to be taken seriously, because people don't take you seriously. They just think that you don't know what you're doing, or they don't think that you have the background, or they kind of feel sorry for you almost. And that's kind of the issues that I've had, where it's like I walk into a position, and just starting with the state, starting my, my career with the state, I was an admin at a community health clinic out in the rural communities. And I was told, by someone who didn't even know what they were telling me. Like, she wasn't saying it in a mean way to her, but the way that I heard it and perceived it was, hey, you're really good fit for this position because you can relate to the community that we're serving, because we were serving, Hispanic women, single mothers with no money that needed to come in to this health clinic to get free services. So I was good for that position because I was relatable to the staff that, or to the people we were serving. And I was like, I wonder if she knows what she's, like it hurt a little bit. And so when I would talk about wanting to, at that those times you used to have to test to like move up positions to like get promoted, you know, they would be like, oh no, you're never going to be able to get out of the admin track, as they call it. You know, it's not going to happen. You have to do your time. You know, it's not going to happen. Like it was almost like I was boastful or something. Like they would get offended if I would say that I wanted to move up, you know, out of that track, and that it was impossible. And so just within ourselves too, it was just kind of like, oh, because you're this person, you know. And I don't know and at the time, you have to think I was coming from California, and so the culture was different in California than it was in rural community in Nevada. So I was kind of like shocked as well. And I was like, wow, like, are you really telling me these things? Like, oh, you're doing a really good job, pat on the head, you know, considering your background and your circumstances. And I'm thinking like, oh, Lee smokes. Okay. So having to hear it and then feel it and then overcome it and not listen to it and still step into that space and be like, you know what? I'm still going to do what I need to do. I'm still going to move out of this track. You know, I'm going to leave here because obviously this is not a good place for me to be planted, because they're not going to let me grow. They're not going to allow me that growth, right? Because they don't think that I am able to grow. So they kind of just threw me in the closet in the dark, like, oh yeah, you know, we're just going to, you know, don't even pay attention to her. You know, she's not worth that time.
And you know what we call that too, though? What the Black people call it, crabs in the barrel, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's almost like the crabs in the barrel syndrome, right? Why you're trying to get up, they're trying to pull you down and keep you where they're at, because they don't have the emphasis or the strong will, and they're jealous that you have the strong will. So, but being now that you're in the civilian world now, right? Mm-hmm. You're right, the military, but to be really honest with you, the military is still ahead of the construction era. I'm just letting you know, even though it doesn't seem like the military is doing anything either, but believe me, the construction is not even close to where the military is. So being in the civilian world, as we call it, is there any incidents where that's really stronger, that stands out on how you felt invisible?
No, yeah. And I think Mayita just brought up a great incident that just happened to me 3 weeks ago, actually. And Mayita, I think I was telling you this. But you know, I do a lot in the community. I sit on a few boards, and, you know, just servant leadership. I believe in it. And so I was going to one of my veteran meetings, and it's actually veteran alumni chapter from UNR. And the associate dean of the School of Social Work was waiting for me. She wanted me to meet her policy guy because they're working on this grant and we're assisting them, right? She wanted me to meet her policy guy. So I rolled up. I'm like fresh off vacation because me and my husband just went to Jamaica. So I probably look like a teeny bopper, right? I had on a hoodie with some jeans and this like satchel. Didn't look like, you know, a deputy director of anything, right? So I walk up and they introduced me to this gentleman that was waiting for me. And they were like, and I will say that the University of Nevada, Reno, their Veteran Services Department, amazing. They have definitely contributed to a lot of my success. They were that support system when I did get my bachelor's and my master's, and they're continuing to be there for me. So, you know, I always try to give back. And so he was, you know, the director was like, oh, Akia, tell your story. And I was like, oh yeah, you know, I got out of the Navy and I got my bachelor's at UNR. And he kind of hit me with oh, good for you. Right? Yes. Pat, right? And so I'm like, you know, and I don't like to project, but in those type of situations, you find yourself projecting, because it's just like, well, wait, you know, like, I'm telling my story because I was asked, but I don't need your, you know, attaboy. Like, I'm good, you know. And so I kind of had to shift because they wanted to talk about grants, and you know how technical grants are, Evelyn. I mean, we have this conversation bi-weekly, right? And so I had to shift, and they were like, oh, you know, kind of hit me with the bless your little heart, and I'm like, well, no, I'm the deputy director of the state grants office, you know. And then we start talking about stuff that he didn't even comprehend or understand. You know, I'm asking him. He's saying that, you know, they didn't get a grant that they wrote. I was like, well, did you request for feedback? He didn't even know that was a thing. You know, and so it just shifted the dynamics. Me walking in, he definitely judged me and was just like, is this who I'm waiting for? I'm waiting for her. you know, and no, I didn't have on a suit or, you know, my Sunday's best, but like it was at a bar and we were having a meeting. And so it's just,
Our meetings.
you see how people receive you. You can definitely see, and we're judgmental people, right? You see how people receive you. And as soon as you open your mouth and start talking, then you see the light bulb go off or the shift. In
You can see it, right, ladies?
You
You
see it.
see that.
You can see it.
She's not a dummy.
Exactly. Exactly.
Dude, my mom used to tell me that all the time, and she used to tell me all the time, you need to learn how to play the game. You need to learn how to play the game. You got to dress the part. And I am still very rebellious, and still I'm like, I refuse. I will dress the way that I dress. If I want to look ghetto, I will look ghetto.
Right.
You know? And so, but she's right. And it's unfortunate because, I mean, even like code switching, I don't even know if I want to talk about that, because I will switch how I talk depending on who I'm talking to and what I'm talking about. And I catch myself doing that. And I hate it because I don't know, I shouldn't have to do that, but I have to, because otherwise people don't think, I don't know, they think less of you. You know what I mean? And it's really, really hard. And it's something that I've struggled with. You know, and I told Akia this, I had my like midlife ethnic crisis like 6-7 years ago, where I was like, what am I? Am I Mexican? Am I American? You know, am I Chicana? You know, I'm from California, and then my name doesn't help me at all. They're like, well, what are you? I'm like, well, I'm a person. Well, what are you? Like, I have to identify. They have to put me in a box. Yes. And, you know, and it sucks because I'm a little bit of everything. You know, I'm Mexican American. I have a diverse culture. I've had to lose a lot of my culture because, you know, we assimilated, and because of the way I grew up, because of what my grandparents just, you know, instilled in me, that I had to be white. You know, I couldn't be brown. I had to be white. It was bad to be brown. And so, you know, losing pieces of my culture, and then as an adult trying to come back to it, it feels like you're a fraud almost. You feel invisible in your own culture. It's the craziest feeling. Yeah. And you try to have conversations with people, but then you don't want to like offend anyone. You know what I mean? You don't want to say the wrong thing, or like you don't know how far is too far. And then you see that you're switching it up because now you have to go into another space where people have this perception of you to be this one way. Right. But are you that way, or am I this way? Like, what way am I? Who am I? You know, you have these crazy thoughts, and it's heartbreaking, because then I want to teach my kids, like, hey, like even today, you know, my daughter's like, I'm not Mexican. The lady looked at her and she's like, well, your mom's Mexican. How are you just like part, you know? And so even like her, you know, because we're so disconnected from our roots, like, how do we come back to that? And it's a really tough exercise to go through emotionally.
Yes.
No, it is.
Well, I want to ask you both this question, but we're going to start with Mayita. So you've ever been in a situation where you recognize that somebody else felt invisible? How did you handle it? Did you handle it, or did you leave it? Right? Did you come to her rescue, or did you just let her figure out about her being? So I know there's a little couple things in there, but Mayita, I want you to. Can you?
No, it's a great question. It's a great question, and I mean, I have a really recent example, and it's hella funny that you ask, because I have a really recent example. So, you know, and it was it wasn't professional. It didn't happen in a professional space. I went to a birthday party on Friday, and all Hispanic, primarily, you know, Mexican folks there, primarily Spanish speaking, listening to, you know, norteño music. And that was the vibe. And one of the women that is married to one of the men that is there, she's Anglo, she's white. And so I was telling my husband, well, I feel like she almost has to step more into her space to be seen, because she is that minority in that position, you know, where like she has to be louder and like more like aggressive almost. It was a really strange dynamic. I'm not going to lie. It was super weird. And so like I saw her and I felt like she felt, I don't know. I saw it and I went up to her and I was like, hey, what's up? You know, like, you know, you having a good time? You know, like, and I did approach her, you know, because I didn't want her. And I remember, and it's funny because she got intoxicated. You remember, we were having a good time. It was a birthday party. And afterwards, she told me, she's like, you know what, Mayita, this is the first time I've come to one of these parties and I felt comfortable. Like I felt cool. Like, thank you. It like that straight up just happened on Friday, you know, and I was just like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. So no, totally. I think it's really important to, and I mean, even like he said this earlier, we meet people where they're at. It's really important to meet people where they're at. You don't know what they're going through, you know, and it's really easy to judge people just based on what they look like. And I'm guilty of this. You know, we were talking about skiing the other day. I'm like, I'm not in that cast. I'm not in the skier cast. I don't know if I'll ever get to the skiing cast. But that doesn't mean that those people, and even just how I said it right now, those people, like, you know, we never know what people are going through. Like, we never know where people are at in their journeys. And it's really important to give grace and to give love and to give forgiveness, but also recognize when things aren't right, you know? And I know Akia can speak to this, you know, call a spade a spade. You know, you have to call people on their shit sometimes. Like, you just have to. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they don't like it though.
Comfortable, and I don't want to do it. I do not volunteer.
We don't like it happening to us. We don't want to do it sometimes because it depends on who it is we got to do it on, right? Because you know there might be some So what is any? Is there any examples that you can think of that's happened recently for you?
Yeah, of like just kind of reaching out to include someone that might have been kind of in the shadows. So I know this doesn't seem real, but I'm actually an introvert. I know that doesn't like sound right? I'm actually an introvert, right? Like,
Mayita laughing, yeah, sure.
So no, I think just being in these different spaces, it's definitely pushed me out of my comfort zone. So if I'm in a situation, and I would say definitely working at the senator's office, because that was heavy outreach, heavy networking, right? Like you're at those galas, you're at those dinners, you're at those presentations all the time, right? And so, you know, you're meeting so many people, you're networking, and there is the time where, you know, like you just kind of, I mean, it would be me sometimes just sitting alone, you're just like, my social meter is a little low, right? But within that, there's beauty in that, because you might see someone else doing the same thing. And so if I've ever had an opportunity to like talk to that person that's kind of sitting by themselves or something, absolutely, because really I feel like I relate with them more because I'm really an introvert, right? And so it's just like I'm having to put on right now and do my job. But if I can sit here, and I love that. I love connecting the dots for people for free, just free, right? Just because you can. You don't get an attaboy half the time. People don't even see it. But if I can reach out and touch someone that might help your career or the betterment of whatever you're trying to do, why not? Why don't we all do that? Why are there gatekeepers? Why are people in positions to where they don't want to help other people?
Yeah.
When it takes you 2 seconds to send an email to loop someone in. It don't mean that the person gonna respond, but it's the effort that's put into place. And if you have those connections, why wouldn't you want to elevate your brothers and sisters? I heard this when I was at the senator's office, always stuck in my head. And I don't even know if I'm saying it right, but we were on this webinar and this lady basically said, you know, at all times when you're in position, especially professional positions, you should have one hand down and one hand up.
I love it.
So your hand down is you're pulling somebody up to where you're at. And your hand up is somebody should be pulling you, right? And it's a constant flow, right? And so like I've had those mentors that have literally just sent that email or literally just did that introduction, and it cost them nothing. And it elevated my professional capabilities or career. And then it's like, I turn around and I'm gonna do the same thing. Because what does it hurt? If anything, and it's like, I have a few mentees where I can see their career blossoming. And that's all it took was that one, yeah, I can vouch for this person. Or yeah, you know, this person's interested, you know, maybe you should consider interviewing this person. And amazing fit. It cost me nothing. It cost me nothing at all, right? And so I guess to answer your question, yes, absolutely. I'm always looking for the underdog because I feel like I'm an underdog, right? Like I feel like, you know, just with my like upbringing or my story of origin, you know, it's just like I always count it out. And so I'm proving people wrong constantly when I step in a room, when I'm working, you know, when I open my mouth. I'm proving people wrong because they already have preconceived notions about me, right? So it's like let's help those other people, because the same thing, underdog, amazing strengths, but maybe not the right opportunity.
Yeah.
I want to get a little bit deeper, right? Because now y'all making me think now, right? So because it seems like all three of us women of color have been through this, but I want to get a little bit deeper, right? I as a child, right? As a woman of color, as a child, because I think all three of us have something in common that we all been circling about on how we felt. And I think it goes back to childhood, right? I think it goes back to how we were feeling as a child of being felt like we're invisible. And now look at us. We're overachievers, we're striving, we're this.
Yes.
But can you and I know I'm hitting on this right here, but I gotta go there, right? So Maya, you know I'm finna call on you, love. So
All the trauma.
so as a young and I get the same thing because today was a conversation. Are you African American or are you Black? Right? And I'm like, oh, wait a minute, that's kind of interesting, right? Because you're right. Because I'm not African, because I'm not, right?
Yeah.
I'm Black, y'all. I mean, we all, yeah, right? I'm Black.
Right.
But I'm just thinking, but I want to really touch on that because I think that's the key in the connection, it seems like, right? So is there a moment in your childhood where you felt this and that has to do with what's happening now to you?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know if y'all have seen that movie Selena, you know, where she's like, we got to know about Pedro Infante and John Wayne. We got to be able to eat frijoles and, you know, whatever it is. And so having to live, and there's this actress, you know, La India Maria, she's a comedian, really famous, and she says, ni de allá, ni de acá, you know, not from over there, nor not, and not also from here. Like, you're just like, you live in this weird gray space, you know, where if I am, you know, I'm not brown enough to be brown, I'm not Mexican enough to be Mexican, but I'm not white enough, Anglo enough to be white. Like, I'm neither, but I'm both. It's a crazy thing, and we've had these conversations. And like my mom, you know, and my family, they're from Texas. They're from South Texas. My mom, from my mom's side of my family and my dad's side of the family, they're from South Texas. They were there from like the 1700s, like back in the day. Like, they've been there for a minute. You know what I mean? When Texas was still Mexico. And
I was just going to say that, but I didn't want to say it. I'm going to say it. It sounds like
if you go to Texas, no lie, if you go to South Texas and you talk to a Mexican in Texas, they're not Mexican, they are Tejanos. And so that's how I grew up. I am not Mexican, I am Tejana. But I wasn't born, nor was I raised in Texas. I was born and raised in California. So I'm not Tejana either. So I can't identify as Texan. I'm not from Texas. And so, yeah, you grow up in this weird place where, you know, I was told when I went to school, I was in elementary school, you know, don't tell them you speak Spanish because they'll put you in special ed or like English learning classes. So I couldn't speak Spanish at school. And because of that, you know, I didn't start speaking Spanish until I was a little bit older. And I learned Spanish through music. And I don't know if that's something y'all know about me, but I'm a musician. I grew up playing music. My first instrument was accordion. I learned how to play accordion when I was a little kid, you know, and I grew up playing guitar, grew up playing sax, and, you know, norteño music, Tejano music, that's my life. That's my love. You know, that's where I sit. And so I learned through my culture, through my music. And so growing up, yeah, it was like this thing where that was private, and out in public, you know, at school, I was overachiever. You're never good enough. You have to do more. You have to get straight A's. You have to, well, my grandma would tell me, you have to get an education because you need to get a job to make money. And I'm like, but why do I need to make money? Like, I didn't understand the concept of having to make money when I was like 11. Like, it just didn't, I didn't understand. And so, yeah, so it was always growing up like that and just being told that not to date any Mexican men because I didn't want to date a machismo, you know, macho man. Like, I needed to not date my own, you know, race, I guess, because it wasn't appropriate. And I don't know. And I swear to God, we are the most racist people against our own races, you know, our own people, because it was like, oh, you know, you don't want to, you know, those paisanos, because, you know, people from here will talk about Mexican people from they're país, because país means country, as paisanos, like, originally from there. And so I don't know. It was a crazy dynamic. And honestly, it didn't really hit me until I was an adult and I moved out of California. Like, it didn't hit me until I moved out here. And I saw, like, again, I said, like, people started to have to put me in a box. And I was like, oh, I don't know. Let me call my mom. Mom, what am I? But my mom doesn't even know. Like, I've had these conversations with my mom. My mom doesn't know either. My mom, you should hear her speak Spanish. It's hella funny, And so, but it's because she also had it, like, shoved down her throat. Like, you don't speak Spanish, it just, you don't do that. And so, yeah, again, it's really sad because, like, one of my cousins, she's coming back and she's doing a lot of research and, coming back to her indigenous roots too. Like, that's another thing. My grandma's mestiza. So my grandma's half indigenous, half Spanish. So her father is from España, like Spain, and her mother was Indian, Mexican Indian. So she's half and half. So they call that mestiz. And so my grandma was always like, get out of the sun. You can't get brown. You have to be white. Like, I don't know. It sticks with you. And I can't even say it. My husband's from Zacatecas. He's from Mexico. God bless his heart. He has the best culture and the best family-centered, like, thing. And I tell him all the time, well, we lost that generation over generation here. Our family moving over here, we don't have that anymore. And so I love seeing it. But I see those little pieces of, like, when we had my daughter, he was like, oh, she came out, dark. She came out morena. I'm like, and what? What if she did? Like, what's the big deal? And the first thing, I swear to God, you guys, the first thing that his family says when we open that, Zoom call is like, oh, look how güerita, she's so güerita. First thing they say, they're so obsessed with it. And so it just kind of, like, really highlights that, like, that loss. I don't know. It's a trip, man. It's a trip. So it's so in you, and then you try to challenge it, and, like, where do you even start and where do you even end? Like,
it is, y'all. So Akia, can you please because again, because she's really, and thank you for that, because you really went there, because that's true feelings. But believe me, in with Black, it's the same thing. If you're dark, if you're and I'm gonna say it, high yellow, you get right, because that was the thing, right, to prove that you were white and not Black. So can you please kind of give us some.
No, Mayita definitely set the stage for this one. So I'm originally from Georgia, so I'm from the South, below the Mason-Dixon line, as they call it, right? And so me growing up is a little bit different. As Evelyn just said, the prejudice that we have within our own culture of darker skin versus lighter skin. My great-great-grandfather is white, right? We come from sharecropping out of the South. And to be completely honest, if you want to go all the way there, my great-great-grandmother was the other woman. And so then she had 3 kids, but he had his whole family, and he was white and his whole family was white. So then they changed the pronunciation of their last name when it came about that they were, related to people of color, right? Wow. Yes, this is some back in the day Georgia stuff, right? So growing up as a little girl, I'm fair skinned. My mom is fair skinned. My grandmother's fair skinned. We're all fair skinned because the lineage of Caucasians is a couple, generations away. Yeah. So, fair skin, curly hair. I got kind of picked at a lot because I thought that they would be like, oh, you think you're better than us. That's not the case. I'm a little kid. I have I didn't choose the skin color, so it definitely would make me feel some type of way and would hurt my feelings. And so as I grew up, it was like, well, I wasn't Black enough, right? But then, by the definition, I'm not biracial, right? I'm Black. My parents are Black, right? And so it definitely put me in this weird place. And I mean, even like because my family's from rural Georgia, so I would have cousins, we'd be fighting. literally fighting, like fights over my hair is long, my hair is curly, or you think you're pretty, or you think you're prissy, right? And so that sticks with you. And so it's like almost like ashamed. I was ashamed. I was ashamed growing up of being fair skinned or curly. And so then it's like, oh, well, because I'm ashamed and I'm creating this narrative that's not true. Yeah, I'm biracial. No, I'm not. No, it's 2-3 lines down, right? But if that's what you want to hear to accept me, then that's what I'll tell you. You know, and so yeah, it is definitely crazy. And I think Evelyn hit it on the head, like the internal struggles that we have as a race. And why do we feel this way? Like all skin is beautiful. Black is beautiful. Oh. You know, any melanin is beautiful. It's beautiful, right? You know, all shades.
And it's natural.
And it's natural. And it's like we should appreciate that. But yeah, no, it definitely, I don't think I was fully just unapologetically Black until maybe like midway into my Navy career. And just dealing with different situations or things, or you got people coming and asking you, you know, what's the new, rap album coming out? Well, why do you think I listen to rap music? You know, and all those stereotypes that come with
it.
And the frustrating part. But I will go back to your original point of what made us be like who we are. And I was raised by a single mom. You know, my dad left when we were 8. I mean, I have a relationship with him now, but that was really difficult because I wanted to be daddy's little girl, right? Mm-hmm. And so to me, that was rejection. Yeah. Him leaving was rejection, right? Us being in the circumstances that we were in, that was rejection. And it's like, I carried that throughout my entire life, right? So it's just like, whether he's not there or, you know, I didn't get this job or, you know, maybe this guy didn't like me or, you know, and it's just rejection after rejection after rejection. To where I just get this complex where it's like, I'm an underdog and it's okay. I'm gonna embrace it and I'm gonna move within that and nobody's gonna outwork me. And nobody's gonna, you know, and it's just like, nobody's gonna out hustle me. Nobody's gonna outgrind me, you know, because I'm gonna be the one that's up to 1 and 2 in the morning doing the work while you sleeping. That's fine because you literally sleeping on me, right? You know, but I think it has a lot to do with that story of origin and feeling rejected and not having that support or and me and my husband were just talking about this, the feeling of like that conditional love, not unconditional, conditional.
It's conditional.
Conditional. It's like if I do this, then they would love me more. Yeah. Or if I present this way, they would love me more. Or you know, if I say I'm biracial, maybe they'll love me more than just knowing that I'm fully Black, right? It's like all these things that we think about and we internalize and we find coping mechanisms to navigate through. Yeah. Which it can be very unhealthy, you know, but I think it has a lot to do with society and how they push out these stigmas and they tell us how we should be seen and viewed and what's pretty and what's beautiful. And, you know, they get to, I guess, you know, write that ticket. But I think the beauty is in taking it back. And not caring about anybody and doing what is best for you and moving forward.
I agree. Well, ladies, our time is almost up here. And again, I already know we could all three sit here and talk because we all are going through the same thing or been through the same thing. But can we get a quick 30 seconds? Can I get a quick 30 seconds on anything, you know, that you really want to close with? Because we're getting ready to close here. So Mayita, I'm gonna start with you. A quick 30 seconds on something that you want to say, as in a closing on the subject of invisible, or anything you would like to say. Or
I mean, it went in perfectly. I mean, Akia, what you just said and what we're talking about, and you know, going back to that Ralph Ellison dude, what we were talking about before we even started this, that Invisible Man book, really stuck with me. He says, "I am what I am." Right. And he's talking about yams and saying, I am what I am. And it's like saying like, hey, you know what? I came to terms with who I am, despite what everyone else is telling me that I need to be. Like, you are this, or you're putting us in that box. You know what? Whatever. You are who you say you are. You know, you step into that. And you're right. I mean, for me too. I mean, just recently, maybe within the last 10 years, even less than that, am I really starting to step into my culture, really starting to step into who I want to be. Like, I don't need anyone else telling me that you're this or you're that or you're this. And, we're not invisible. We're not dumb. We're not, imposters. We're not, unable to do something because we're moms. We can't be a mom and a professional at the same time. Like, you have to pick one. That's a big one for me. I hate that one. Like, I have to pick, and I'm like, why do I have to pick? Why can't I be everything and all at the same time? So I don't know. That's what I'll leave you guys with. It's you have to stay true to yourself. You have to maintain your integrity, and you have to live through the noise and just, be you.
Right.
All the time.
I agree with your sister. All right. Can you close out with some 30 seconds to close it out?
Yeah, no, I think, I'm piggyback off what Mayita said, but just being you and being comfortable in your skin and who you are, and don't let anybody tell you can't do something, period. Don't let anybody tell you that's like fuel to me. Tell me I can't do something, or I'm not qualified, or I can't figure it out. And I promise you, I will obsess until it's accomplished. Ask my husband, literally. I will obsess until it's done to prove you wrong. Because I've been proving people wrong my whole life. So don't let people, like Mayita said, don't let people put you in a box. You do what you believe that you can do, what God has blessed you to have the ability to do. You do it. You do it, and you do it with pride, and then maybe a little bit of humbleness too, and figuring out however to navigate it. But it can be done. And like, we're all strong women. So empower the other women around you and stop tearing them down and competing. Because we're not competing. If we come together and link arms and we work together, man, it's so much more powerful, including our white women allies. We need to all come together. Come together and with them. And I'm saying this, if you see something, say something. Speak up. Stop being the person in the room to watch a person of color get demeaned or treated disrespectfully, and you don't say anything. We need allyship. And we all need to come together. And it shouldn't just be women of color. It should be one. That's what I'm going to say. Everybody, drop the stereotypes, come together in love, and don't let anybody tell you you can't do something.
Wow. Look at that. Amen and amen on that. I agree with you. I think we're all here and have a purpose. I really believe that. I believe we all have gifts. And not everybody wants to know what their gift is. Not everybody cares about what their gift is. But I believe God individually, because like I always say, you come in this world by yourself, you leave this world by yourself. You don't leave this world with your family. You leave this world by yourself. So to me, when you come into this world, that's something you are supposed to be working on, not that person next to you, not your husband, not your girlfriend, however, you're rolling. And I really believe that, because when you start finding the inner self and you're humble.
Yeah. And you're humble.
Right?
That's right.
Being humble. I just thank both of you. And I want to have you on here again, of course. We got to come on here again and finish this. And I just appreciate both of you so much, my queens, for coming on here and doing this with me, for me, beside me. And I just want to end with my mission statement. And it's kind of interesting, Makia, that you kept saying it too about us holding hands. But my mission statement is we empower all women, really empower all women, and to hold hands as we rise together. And either we rise together, like you said, or we rise with one hand in the front and one hand in the back. So it's so important for us to hold hands and do that and have allies. I agree with you on that. So that's thank you both of you for everything. And there we go.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Akia.
Thank you.
PR Connections Radio thanks you for watching this podcast. Check out more episodes of this show and our others at prconnectionsradio.com.